If you walk the pastures at dawn, you'll face one of the biggest dilemmas in the poultry production world. On one side, you have a relentless white egg powerhouse, a field athlete carrying pure genetics that has survived generations of natural selection. On the other side, you face a marvel of reproductive science, a four-way cross engineered to flood your nesting boxes with heavy brown eggs. We're talking about the historic rivalry between the Leghorn and the Isa Brown. Many seasoned producers swear loyalty to classic Hardiness, while others blindly trust the yield of the hybrid engine. But what happens when you put both under the microscope of raw profitability, feed conversion, and the true self-sustainability of your homestead? Today we're breaking down this clash of titans to the last feather, asking questions that'll challenge everything you thought you knew about flock management. Stick around until the end, because the final verdict will tell you exactly which one is the undisputed queen for your setup. Let's begin. To understand the Leghorn, you must look back at her roots in the scorching Mediterranean climate. This isn't a laboratory creation, but a survivor molded by the heat and a boundless vitality. Unlike heavy birds that rest in the shade, the Leghorn is pure nerve and perpetual motion. Her body is a sleek aerodynamic frame, crowned by an enormous comb that operates as a natural radiator, dissipating body heat when temperatures hit those suffocating 95 degrees Fahrenheit. It's this exact hardiness that draws in producers dealing with hot climates who need a reliable flock member that won't suffer sudden heat stress. We're talking about a relentless bug hunter that covers the ground from end to end, using every single ounce of energy with extreme efficiency. The core power of this bird, the exact trait that turns her into a crown jewel for a self-sustaining homestead, lies in her purebred status. This means her genetics obey Mendelian inheritance laws without missing a beat. If you keep a premium foundation rooster and cross him with your best hens, the offspring will be perfect replicas of their parents in both yield and physical traits. If you're a breeder looking to break free from commercial hatcheries, this advantage is immeasurable. You don't need to buy replacement pullets every season. You become the absolute master of your own genetic lines. You can select the top performers of your flock, hatch their eggs, and secure the productive future of your pastures without injecting cash into outside sources year after year. That genetic independence comes paired with a biological engine that simply doesn't know fatigue. The Leghorn is famous for her staggering capacity to generate snow-white eggs, easily breaking the barrier of 300 eggs per year under optimal management. Her sexual maturity is quite early, sparking egg production between 18 and 20 weeks of age. Right when other varieties are barely developing their bone structure, this hen is already firing on all cylinders and paying for her own feed. This explosive start translates to an accelerated return on investment for you, maintaining a steady cash flow and taking the massive financial pressure off those heavy bags of starter and grower rations. Feed management is exactly where this pasture athlete proves to be a true powerhouse of conversion. The lightweight frame of the mature female, rarely exceeding 4.5 pounds, is a masterstroke of natural design. Since she doesn't have to maintain a massive muscular bulk, almost all the calcium and protein she consumes goes straight into egg formation. A heavy-laying bird demands a substantial daily maintenance ration, but our protagonist consumes a modest 4 ounces of feed per day on average. When you multiply those daily savings by hundreds of birds over a complete production cycle, the sheer pounds of feed you leave out of your budget make a colossal difference in your pocketbook. However, this intense specialization in egg laying comes with a biological trade-off that you need to grasp. Through decades of selective breeding focused on yield, the Leghorn has lost her incubation instinct. The broody switch has been completely wiped from her nervous system. If you're a volume-focused producer who needs the birds to never stop working, this is a massive advantage. But if your self-sustaining homestead plan relied on the mothers themselves raising the chicks in wooden nesting boxes, you'll have to pivot your strategy. With this breed, the only way to propagate your flock is by running an incubator on your property or utilizing other heritage hens to step up as substitute mothers. This tireless nature reflects in her temperament, demanding observant management in the pens. Leghorns are very vivacious and high-strung birds. They operate with a sharp radar-like awareness, constantly scanning the horizon for danger. If a four-legged predator stalks the perimeter or a sudden loud noise hits the barn, they don't hesitate to take flight with enviable agility. If you're running a deep pasture-raising system, this hyperactivity is a vital shield for evading ground threats. Nevertheless, in confined spaces or fully enclosed runs, their skittish attitude can trigger sudden pileups or escapes over the fencing if your netting isn't installed high enough. It's critical to handle them with calm, steady routines, avoiding sudden movements. That electric temperament turns into cold, hard cash saved when you decide to release these birds onto open ground. Their foraging drive is insatiable, spending the entire day scratching the dirt in search of seeds, worms, and tender shoots. This ability to secure a large portion of their own sustenance slashes your commercial dependence even further. They act as biological tillers that clean the topsoil while fertilizing it with their nitrogen-rich manure. By leveraging this rustic foraging power, you elevate the nutritional profile of the egg with vibrant, rich yolks and consolidate your profit margins, relying far less on the commercial feed hoppers during sharp spikes in grain inflation. Every specialist has a weak point, and when the time comes for the flock's retirement, the physical reality becomes glaring. If you're looking for a substantial carcass for the meat market, you're in for a disappointment. Mature roosters will barely hit 6 pounds with a narrow bone structure, and the spent hens will be nothing but bone and feathers. The meager meat they do offer demands long hours in the stew pot to become tender. This is a biological machine built purely for the egg carton, not the butcher block. You need a well-mapped alternative plan for the productive culling of these birds when their laying curve eventually drops off. Fortunately, that decline takes a long time to arrive if you uphold a strict biosecurity perimeter on your property. The Leghorn possesses a formidable fortress of resistance against the daily challenges of the field. While overweight birds suffer from joint issues or sudden prolapses, the athletic frame of our white egg layer grants her a long and tenacious productive life. It's standard practice for her to hold profitable numbers well into a second or even a third year after the molting phase, dropping the frequency a bit but delivering premium-grade eggs of superior size. Her hardiness against respiratory threats is outstanding, proving that we're looking at a fierce avian engine that doesn't stall at the first cold breeze. Let's flip the coin and step into commercial territory with the Isa Brown. This isn't an ancient purebred but a masterful four-way cross, engineered using robust foundation lines like the Rhode Island Red to build a flawless biological engine. As a pasture powerhouse, this bird is a true heavy-duty processor, showing a docility and a manageable temperament that really eases your daily workload. She walks with a steady, unbothered pace through the facilities, staying perfectly calm during egg collection. Facing the elements, her dense plumage grants her a formidable shield against abrupt temperature drops, though she demands impeccable ventilation in the barns to prevent thermal stress when the summer heat hits hard. Managing her spaces requires wide, padded nesting boxes, as she seeks comfort and darkness to safely deposit her heavy daily load without causing hairline fractures to the shell. On the rustic feeding front and hard data, this productive marvel is an absolute powerhouse, demanding around 4.2 ounces of high-density layer ration every single day. In exchange for that relentless intake, she delivers a staggering 320 heavy brown eggs a year, featuring dense shells and lipid-rich yolks if she forages deep on fresh pasture. This bird operates like a high-performance engine, meaning her water intake must be absolutely spotless and abundant to process that heavy feed volume. However, this extreme yield brings field-level health warnings you simply can't afford to ignore. The immense calcium demand needed to sustain that massive production can strip her skeleton if the ration falls short, triggering severe issues like cage layer fatigue or osteoporosis. It's vital to supplement with oyster shell and monitor her body weight weekly, making sure she isn't cannibalizing her own muscle reserves to keep up the pace, protecting your long-term cash flow. Here's where the economic scale really starts to swing between these two productive giants. While the Mediterranean champion floods your cartons with pristine white eggs, the brown hybrid taps straight into local consumer psychology. In many rural markets, the buyer falsely assumes a dark-shelled egg guarantees a free-range upbringing, and they're willing to pay a premium margin for every dozen. This fundamental visual detail, combined with the fact that the hybrid's eggs hit that jumbo classification of over 2.3 ounces, turns every morning collection into a heavy cash injection. If your homestead model relies on direct-to-consumer sales, that deep brown shell acts as a magnet, accelerating your payback in a very tangible way. You aren't just selling nutrition, you're selling a rustic aesthetic that commands higher prices at farmers markets and local stands. But all that glitters isn't gold out in the pasture, and it's in the realm of true self-sustainability where you have to make the toughest choice. Remember, our white egg layer lets you breed your own replacements and keep the flock's genetic purity intact. With the industrial brown hybrid, that dream of total independence vanishes. Because she's a complex four-way cross, her genetic code is completely locked down. If you incubate those beautiful brown eggs, the resulting chicks suffer from severe genetic segregation. You'll end up with birds of scattered sizes and a mediocre laying rate that'll ruin your production forecasts. You become chained to buying replacement pullets from massive commercial hatcheries every single time a cycle ends, tying your hands to the fluctuating prices of the broader agricultural supply chain. When we analyze the speed of sexual maturity, the race between these two birds is a spectacle worth watching. The purebred hen gets an early start, but the engineering behind the four-way cross has managed to stabilize that explosive production timeline just as well. Both varieties spark their laying cycle right around 18 to 20 weeks of age, making sure you don't spend half a year feeding unproductive livestock. However, the brown hybrid demands much stricter artificial light management during those crucial weeks prior to her first egg. A miscalculation in your daily light hours can trigger production long before the reproductive tract is fully developed and built for the task. This premature start often leads to devastating prolapses that'll decimate your flock's numbers before those young hens even pay off their initial starter feed costs. That same structural genetic barrier reflects in their functional lifespan inside the laying facilities. The white purebred champion is a true marathon runner capable of maintaining heavy yields through 2 or even 3 molting cycles. The brown egg hybrid, on the contrary, is an extreme sprinter who leaves absolutely everything on the track during her very first year of life. After the first 12 to 14 months of uninterrupted production, her physiological wear and tear becomes glaringly obvious. Her feather quality deteriorates rapidly, the shell thickness thins out, and the risk of oviduct complications spikes. This isn't a flaw. It's exactly how she was designed to operate. If you're focused on cold, hard numbers, this means the entire flock must be culled and replaced much faster, forcing a high-speed rotation schedule in the barn that requires constant hands-on management. When that inevitable culling moment finally arrives, the carcass weight steps right into the financial equation of the homestead. We already established that the white egg specialist leaves behind a narrow frame, suited only for light broths. Here, the brown layer offers a slight consolation prize for your wallet. By carrying genetics from heavier foundation lines in her ancestral family tree, a mature hybrid hen can surpass 5 pounds when she reaches the butcher block. While she certainly doesn't compete with a dedicated meat bird, her breast and thighs provide a respectable amount of meat with excellent texture for crafting traditional, slow-cooked stews. This residual carcass value helps cushion the financial blow of purchasing the next batch of replacement chicks, giving you one final return on the bird's life. One fascinating trait both competitors share, despite their clashing genetic origins, is the almost total eradication of the maternal instinct. Neither the ancient purebred nor the modern 4-way cross will show any real interest in warming a clutch of eggs. Selective breeding for sheer volume has completely silenced that ancient biological alarm. If your operation is focused on daily efficiency, this is music to your ears, as a broody hen is an animal that stops producing while still consuming feed. Your nesting boxes remain active and available all day long. Yet, this shared trait reinforces the unavoidable need for precise artificial incubators or substitute heritage hens if your vision involves expanding the pastures using your own fertile eggs. Without reliable brooding equipment, you're entirely cut off from multiplying your flock. If we evaluate the behavior of both varieties in deep rotational grazing systems, the differences in biological design become even more pronounced. The white Mediterranean bird uses her skittish nature as an invaluable natural radar, staying alert against aerial predators while covering vast distances to hunt insects that supplement her diet. In stark contrast, the brown hybrid, confident in her heavier size and placid temperament, tends to hang back closer to the main feeders and shaded shelters. She prefers the convenience of an easy meal over the rigorous hunt. This docility makes her highly vulnerable if your outer perimeters aren't ironclad. If you're operating in confined runs, the hybrid's passive nature is an absolute blessing that prevents stress-induced pileups, but out in the deep open pasture, she requires much tighter oversight to guarantee the flock doesn't suffer steady losses. We arrive at the moment of weighing untamed hardiness against laboratory-grade efficiency. The sharp feed conversion of a lightweight purebred against the premium shell value of a mass production machine. The definitive choice between these two avian giants doesn't depend on which one looks better on paper, but rather on the exact ground you walk on and the economic philosophy of your daily operation. If you run a heavy feeding system where every ounce of grain must turn into liquid cash to cover monthly bills, the brown egg engine is unmatched. Her explosive start and high market value secure a rapid payback. But if the local economy turns volatile or feed prices spike, that system will shake, making the resilient, self-breeding purebred look like the ultimate safeguard to ensure your homestead remains productive. The crown for the undisputed queen isn't awarded lightly, but the cold reality of the pasture dictates the final verdict. If your ultimate goal is to forge a truly self-sustaining homestead, shielded against external crises and built on total independence, the Leghorn takes the absolute win. She allows you to master your own genetics from the ground up and sink your daily feed costs to highly manageable levels. Conversely, if you want a fast-paced poultry setup where accelerated cash flow and the sale of premium brown eggs are your absolute priorities, the hybrid will dominate your barns with crushing yield, demanding your commitment to constantly purchase replacements. Let me know down in the comments which of these varieties makes the most sense for your setup. If you got some value out of this breakdown, hit that subscribe button and give the video a thumbs up so we can keep bringing you practical poultry advice. To your success, fellow breeder. Until next time.